Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is just kind of a overarching video walking through TalleFlow. I'm not going to dive super deep into specific concepts, but just generally kind of walking through the product, how we would recommend to use it, how a lot of our users are currently using it, and how you can make the most out of using a CRM for your business. So if you're watching this video, it's probably the case that you have a business where you know you get booked for an event, maybe some sort of service business, and this application basically helps you keep track of your day-to-day admin work, including sending out contracts for e-signature, sending out invoices to capture payment, getting leads through your website or social media, and then just overall just tracking your productivity and keeping everything organized into one system. This includes even client outreach, automations. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with TallyFlow, and I think you can customize it, pretty well. And so I'm just gonna kind of walk through the product and just show sort of each feature. So what I want to start with is our projects page. So every project is you can consider like a booking, um, or maybe something that you're working on where you're working with a client and you need to keep track of everything in one area. As you can see in the projects page, we have project stages. This is sort of like your working pipeline of as you move through a project, whether you're dealing with a client, for an event. You might start out with just sort of planning the event. Maybe there's a point where you want to send them like a deposit to make sure that they've committed to for you to be their vendor. Um, Either way, however your workflow works, you can customize it, based on sort of this pipeline. So all of these project stages are fully customizable. And the way you would do that is you'd actually go to your business settings and go to preferences. And you can see here, you can add additional project stages. And I'll kind of dive into business settings, and you might have seen a little something here that I'll also dive into as we go through the video. To attach a contact to a project, you can go, there's a couple different ways. You can either click on this and you can choose a contact to add to your project. Once your contact is added to a project, they get an alert letting them know that they've been added to a project. So once you do this, you've basically committed to the fact that you're working with that client and they belong in this project. You can obviously remove them at any point, and your client will no longer have access to the client portal side of this project. And I can kind of also go into the client portal as well. But we do have some separate videos that kind of cover the client portal, how it works. But the client portal, just briefly, is basically almost like a mirror of your project dashboard. But it has all the information that they would need and any actions that they might need to take for you to move forward with the project. So they can pay invoices, they can sign contracts on the client portal. They can even add notes for the event or booking or project, and that can be shared here. But just briefly, just kind of going over the project dashboard, which is sort of like a centralized view of your project. From here, you can track activity that has occurred within the project. For example, I've added a task and it shows up on this timeline. You can also communicate with your customers, so either through email or even direct messaging within the client portal. So on the client portal, they actually have their own chat box and they can chat with you directly. You can also add tasks and attach them to the project. In each task, and I'll kind of go over task, has a status, a priority, and you can also even assign tasks to your contact, and they will see those tasks on the client portal. You can even attach meetings. If you need to schedule any calls with your client, you can do that here. And once you add them, then they get an invite, whether based on what you've integrated with. Currently, we support Gmail, or Google Workspace, so Google Meets, and then also Outlook. So you can attach your Outlook calendar and create Outlook events. We also have a Zoom integration as well, so you can include a Zoom link in your meetings that you've scheduled. And to kind of take a look at integrations, you can go to business settings. I just click on this little toggle here, click on the settings icon. I can also get there through here, and clicking on the settings icon. But here in connected tools, you could see kind of a list of all the integrations that we support. Um, Including SnapPick, which is at the time of this video um, currently rolling out into being fully published to our website or our platform. Um, but at the time of this video, it is not built yet. But by the time you watch it, it probably will be. Anyways, I'll kind of walk through the business settings as well. But just to kind of finish out with projects, here you can also attach attachments. So whether that's designs, proofs, PDFs, whatever it might be, any file type up to 25 megabytes. And once you do so, and I'll just kind of upload like a PDF. You can actually choose whether or not to show it in the client portal. So I publish this PDF into the client portal, and then kind of walking through here. This is also where you can keep track of any documents that you've sent to your client. Each document, are things like brochures, which a brochure is just a great way to list out your services and let the client decide what they want to choose from. A proposal also we allow you to create, which is just it's a document that you would send to basically showcase, this is what I'll provide you. Here's the contract, here's the invoice, so they can sign and pay all in one fell swoop. You can also send questionnaires, and I can walk through also documents as well. Um, you can create questionnaires, and you can also create like custom documents, which basically give you a more flexible way to create something really nice. I can also walk through the document editor in a second, but we also have the ability for you to add inventory. So you can kind of see that the project is kind of the central location in which all of these other things sort of like combine into. And we also support Canva and Canva integration. So if you've integrated with Canva, you can link designs into the project and publish them into the client portal. So the designs tab also includes our integration to photo booth templates, as well as some other template marketplaces. So this is also a great way to kind of like attach things to your client from a design perspective, and allow them to approve, disapprove, leave comments on Canva, just during the natural back and forth of getting a booking. We've also included the ability to add a timeline. So if you want to plan out the day of the actual event, you can use that. You can do that using our timeline editor. Another great thing is you can add notes, and you can actually publish them to the client portal. And then also the finance tab will track basically the profit and loss that you've had per project. You can also add expenses in this section. So if you want to track any expenses that you might have incurred from working on this specific project, you can do that here, and it'll track your entire P&L. And then the details tab just kind of shows specific details of the project. You can also assign team members to the project. So for example, I'm able to add an external member as sort of like a sub account to my project, and I've made them an admin. So I'm able to actually assign them to the project, and they basically are following this project. They've been assigned, so they're responsible for this project. However you want to dish out those responsibilities, that's up to you. We just built a system to allow you to track who's assigned to what, and allow them to basically receive notifications on anything that might happen to the project. Our permission systems are like role based. So we have admin and we have team member, which has a limited view has a limited view of certain things. Like for example, they don't have access to finance. And then we have a third role called collaborator, which basically they would have pretty limited access, and realistically only have access to any projects or tasks that they're assigned. So they see the relevant information, but they don't see the rest. From the project dashboard, you can also copy a link to the client portal to actually just send to your client. But once you've added them to the project, they actually will receive a link automatically. Awesome. So we also have a task management portion. So you can create tasks, assign it to contacts, as well as your own team members. And we also have a Kanban view of your tasks. And by the way, we also have a Kanban view of your projects as well. So you can move projects along its stage, go in, take a look at the project, and any details, and just kind of a calendar. And you can integrate Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar as well. And you can create projects directly from the calendar. Um, we also have a designated finance section. This is where you could see your balance, any money that you've earned, um, you know, and also to keep track of any payouts. Also keep track of expenses, and we do are connected with Stripe. So in order to use finance and send invoices and any perform any sort of financial transactions, you will need to create a Stripe connected account with TalleFlow. We currently only support Stripe. We've hitched our wagon to Stripe. We love it, and I think a lot of people have been really tuning into the cool things that Stripe is doing. Here you can also set some global finance settings. So these I will kind of walk through. These have to do with like package pricing, and also online direct checkout, which we do support, for the ability for you to enable online direct checkout for any specific packages. And I'll kind of walk through what that means if that sounds foreign to you. You can also set your currency and global tax rate and even surcharge rate. Some people have requested this feature because they want to combat the Stripe fees. So why not put it onto your customer? But anyways, so I kind of walk through the next tab, which is our offerings. Your offerings are basically like everything that you sell. It's like your stuff. You can create your own packages, which is basically like your SKU. How you price certain things. These are your services, right? At the end of the day. And then there's items, which basically are like sort of the building blocks of a package. So just to briefly kind of go through the package editor, you can choose a cover image for the package, choose a name, choose a description. You can choose your pricing, like the way that you price it. And to be honest, all this is basically saying that, do I want the total price to be the price that I set at the package level, or do I want it to be the sum of all the items that I've set? So that other page that I was on, which was items, as I mentioned, that's the building block of packages. So if I add a bunch of items here, so I'm going to add item 1 and I'm going to add item 2. As you can see, like item 2 and item 1 are both $100. So because I did a flat add up items, I can't set a package price, and the total is calculated right there. It's $200. So we just know that sometimes people might just set a package price and just include the items. So this gives you that flexibility. You can also optionally add add-ons to a package, and this will be basically choosing from a list of your items, and it's just a great way to basically upsell on things. It's a great sales strategy is to kind of upsell, cross sell. So once the client chooses a package, either through a brochure or through online direct checkout, they'll also be shown these list of add-ons to optionally select and include in the final invoice that you send your client. And then another thing to look into is direct online checkout. So for this specific package, we can basically generate a URL for the package and send it to your client for them to basically check out directly online. Sweet. And then I'm gonna just kind of walk through documents as well. So in documents, this is where you can create your brochures, your contracts, your invoices, and your proposals, and even your questionnaires. For now, I'm just gonna show you how to create an invoice. So to create an invoice, click on create an invoice. You want to choose you can create templates. So these are like reusable documents that you can create other invoices off of. Or you can create just a document file. This is just a one-time thing that you're actually sending to your client. To create a document file, you first have to actually attach it to a project, because that's how the document knows that it's going to a client. You're sending it to a client. And as you can see here, I can choose from an existing design or from my templates, or I can start from blank. So I'm going to just start from blank, and we just kind of load a skeleton of what your invoice looks like. And from here in your invoice tool, you can search your packages. So as you can see here, I can choose from the packages that I've created. So I'm going to choose this package. And as you can see, because I priced it at $200. I think I left out the actual price of the package in the actual package configuration, so it didn't roll over. But this is how you basically populate your invoice, and then you can add a payment button. The only thing is you need to be connected to Stripe in order to add a payment button. So I'm gonna save the invoice and send it. If you are connected to Stripe, then the client will be able to see a Pay Now button, and on the client portal, they will be able to actually pay. So I'm going to send this to the contact. This is the final step before you share it. You can choose the contact that you want to send to, and I'm going to share this document. From here, I can also use my own. I can write my own email. I don't need to use the default template email that we provide. So I can create my own emails, like for basically sending out client-facing documents, and I can even create templates of those. So I can create a bunch of these, and I can use templates, or I can just create a one-off thing, and also make use of merge tags, or sorry, smart tags. Smart tags are basically like tokens where it pulls the relevant information necessary, and it dynamically fills in the space. So for example, in this scenario, client.full name will take the full name of my contact, and it'll basically just replace this whole section with that name. So then I can go ahead and share the document, but instead I will just exit. This is the next page is contact forms. This is actually where you create your lead ingestion forms. So just to kind of show you here, this is one that I've created, and I can create it using our drag and drop editor. This is an example of the drag and drop editor. I can add a bunch of different things here. I can add a logo up here. I can add my socials. I can add some other headings, some text. I can dress it up, and here is where I can add my questions for lead ingestion. To add questions, click on this. Select, and then I can add new fields, add new questions, and basically ask anything that I want. Once I'm done, I can hit publish or republish, and then I get my embed code, and this is where I could put the embed code onto my website to start ingesting clients, or I could even copy like a direct link for my contact form, and I can provide it to the client as well. So I can even put that on my like Instagram or socials, and ingest leads from there. We also do support email marketing. There is an entire video on email marketing that I would recommend you look at. On this account, I don't have a verified email address. So with all of our email marketing, you must have a verified custom domain to send emails from. And that's the case for any email marketing tool out there. Things like Flowdesk, MailChimp. We actually provide a very simple step-by-step flow for email marketing. The final thing that I wanted to add was communities, which is currently in beta. Actually, this is not the final thing. Maybe I'll come back to this. The next thing that I want to talk about are automations. Here we have a very simple drag and drop editor for automations. You can add triggers. So there's obviously a whole video that kind of walks through automations. But this is really where you can sort of like start automating your entire client process. So whether that means adding automated follow-ups after a lead inquiry, or sending reminders to clients after they may have not paid an invoice or not sent a contract, and just overall helping you through your sales process, right? We also have conditions, and we also have weights, so you can add delays. You can add conditions off of triggers, and all of this is just drag and drop, pretty simple. If a contact form is submitted, maybe I want to add a condition that, which form was submitted. And based on that form, I might want to do a bunch of different things, right? And then maybe based on that form, I want to add an action. And, if it is that thing that I want it to be, then I can add an action of like sending an email. I can even create a task and assign it to myself or somebody else. I can update the project stage, or I can even send a document like a brochure or a file or invoice, whatever that might be. So I'm going to go ahead and save this automation. The final thing is communities. So communities is a great place to connect and collaborate with other fellow TallyFlow members. It's really, I think, one of the things that really separates this product is we believe that you didn't get to where you are, or you're not going to get to where you want to be without the people you around you and the network that you've created, and the community that you've created. So in TallyFlow, we have the ability for you to create communities. As you can see, we have some users that have already created several communities on the platform. To ask questions, maybe even refer each other, and just get to know one another and help each other out on projects. We really feel like this is the best way for anybody to succeed, is to really surround themselves with people that they trust and meet as many new people as possible. And we wanted to provide that opportunity for our users as well. So look to see a lot more enhancements across the board with TallyFlow. And as always, please reach out. And if there's any questions on anything that you see, or you want to dive deeper into it, we're happy to hop on a call. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.